Custom keyboards are quite a big trend nowadays, and I myself am pretty deep into this rabbit hole. The most amazing thing, however, is that what started as a niche hobby has now grown so large that huge companies are taking notice. This is the ROG Azoth, and as you can tell, it has the more unique 75% layout complete with an OLED display. It also features hot-swappable switches, 2.4 GHz wireless and Bluetooth, and other great things like a gasket-mounted design, dampening foam, and much more. This is honestly pretty exciting. Okay, so first up, I might be in this custom keyboard rabbit hole, and some of you might be here with me as well, but most of you probably aren't. So what exactly is a 75% layout? To keep it very simple, a 75% layout is basically taking a TKL layout and removing the home cluster of keys and squeezing the layout ever so slightly. So you still get a dedicated arrow cluster and you still have access to your entire F row while enjoying a much more compact form factor to allow more space for your own mouse and your desk setup and much more. So while the 75% layout is already pretty common and popular in the custom keyboard scene, the ROG Azoth is the first 75% keyboard from a large gaming company like Asus ROG. But the layout itself is just the first of many great things about this keyboard, and trust us when we say this, ROG has certainly been taking down notes from the custom keyboard scene, and it really shows. In terms of build quality, the Azoth is seriously well put together, and it really feels much more premium to the touch as compared to most of their competitors. The top is made out of a pretty thick aluminum that's anodized in a sleek dark grey, and while the rest of it might just be made out of a hard plastic, there's seriously no creaking at all. Fully built, you're looking at a weight of about 1.18 kilograms or about 2.6 pounds, which further gives it that higher sense of quality. For the design itself, we actually quite like it. It's not too gamerish in that sense, but rather it's more of an industrial design that lends itself well to pretty much any kind of setup in our opinion. The two-tone look is pretty neat, and of course, you do get solid rubber feet to ensure it stays in place even in the heat of battle. There's also pop-up keyboard feet for a total of 3 different angle inclinations for your comfort. But the best thing is the fact that this is a wireless keyboard. There's a switch on the right side that allows you to toggle between wired mode, 2.4 GHz wireless via ROG Speed Nova wireless, or even Bluetooth for multi-connectivity and more. Right beside that very switch would also be a magnetic slot for the aforementioned wireless dongle. Now here's the crazy part. If you were to run this on the 2.4 GHz wireless, and you have both the OLED display and the RGB turned off, you can get over 2000 hours of battery life with the ROG Azoth. For context, that is equivalent to constant usage for 83 days or 2.5 months 24/7. That's how long you need before you have to plug it in and charge it back up again. It's just quite insane because I was personally already really impressed with the kind of battery life you can get from the Keychron K series of keyboards. And especially the K2, that's another popular 75% semi-custom keyboard that's also wireless. The K2, that has 240 hours of battery life, which is already really good. But yet, the ROG Azoth can last 9 times that. It's just extremely crazy when you think about it. And this time, it's definitely the good kind of crazy. And yes, performance is absolutely stellar. Not once did we experience a drop in connection or any kind of erratic or unintentional inputs in any of our gaming sessions, no matter how serious it got. It performed admirably. The amount of confidence we have with this is basically the same as we would with a wired keyboard. What about the feel and the sound of the keyboard itself? Well, because after all, such long battery life is kind of a waste if it's not going to be a good experience. Thankfully, it's honestly pretty great. Now, it's not custom keyboard scene great of course, but For what you're getting from a major large gaming company that's producing these by the thousands or hundreds of thousands, this is honestly a pretty great experience. For a start, you're getting ROG's own PBT Doubleshot keycaps, and they do feature top-centered legends to allow all that RGB goodness. Now the font itself is up for debate. It probably is more of a love it or hate it kind of thing, and that's entirely up to you. For us, it works just fine. At the very least, however, you can be rest assured that these keycaps will definitely withstand the test of time. The one interesting thing though is that these keycaps feature what ROG classifies as mid-height keycaps. Basically, they sit right in between the very popular cherry profile by GMK and more, and the pretty much abundant OEM profile from all the other manufacturers. And these keycaps also feature a shorter stem to reduce key wobble. In practice, I would say that these feel much more akin to cherry rather than OEM, and that's definitely a plus point in our opinion. It's really comfortable, and once you get the right angle, you pretty much don't really feel any fatigue at all, especially after long hours of gaming sessions or even just typing. On another note, we believe that thanks to the slight increase in height over cherry, that was basically what allowed ROG to still implement north-facing switches for all that RGB, because you don't get that interference with cherry keycaps, especially for row 3. Though you're also free to swap out the keycaps should you want to, as they do feature the MX compatible style stem. Just do take note that you will need to accommodate the 3 1U keycaps on the bottom row on the right side of the spacebar, the 1.75U right shift, as well as a few other keycaps to fill that additional column of keys on the right. Talking about the switches themselves, you get the option to choose between ROG NX Red, Brown or Blue. We do have the NX Reds here today, and they are a linear switch that feature a 1.8mm actuation point with a 40g initial actuation force and a 55g total force. The NX Reds are definitely the go-to option in our opinion. Keystrokes are light and fast, and they give you that slight advantage in games, but yet it's still not too light to the point that you're constantly making mistakes, especially when you're just typing. In addition, the switches even come pre-lubed right out of the factory, and they do feel quite smooth with little to no scratch. It's not perfect, but definitely better than stock. They are also hot-swappable should you want to change it up, and the PCB does actually also support 5-pin switches, so you don't have to worry about clipping away the legs on custom switches any longer. More amazing than the switches, however, are actually the stabilizers. They do come lubed as well, and you actually don't really need to retune them at all. It's smooth all the way, and they do not rattle even when you tap really lightly on the edges. ROG even put extra effort into the spacebar, and we would say that it has definitely paid off. Is it as good as a custom keyboard with a custom job? Honestly, yeah, not perfect, but to a certain degree, yes. Is it better than the rest of the competition from the likes of Razer, SteelSeries, Logitech and more? 100% without question. So here is how the ROG Azoth sounds. Now, part of what contributes to the sound aren't just the keycaps, switches and stabilizers, but also the mounting mechanism of the keyboard itself. If you were to disassemble the Azoth, you'll find that it utilizes a silicon gasket mount with an aluminum plate, and it has a silicon pad sandwiched between the plate and the PCB. Additionally, there's even pour-on foam right below the PCB, and that is yet sandwiched between the PCB and silicon foam that's basically filling up the rest of the keyboard. All of this was done to reduce case ping and hollowness and provide a clean sound as much as possible. To that end, ROG even provided a DIY switch loop kit with every ROG Azoth. So right out of the box, you'll get 3 additional NX switches of your choice, a keycap puller, a switch puller, a switch tray, a switch opener for both NX and MX style switches, a brush, and even a small tub of actual Krytox 205 grade 0. Again, all we have just mentioned are things that you would only really usually find in the custom keyboard scene, and yet here it is from ROG. But now let's quickly talk about that small OLED display and the 3-way control knob in the corner. It's fully configurable via Armoury Crate, and you can even do a variety of things with it. Even upload a GIF of your own like what we have here. The 3-way control knob is just really incredibly useful to quickly adjust settings such as your RGB brightness, your OLED brightness, the RGB pattern, your system volume, multimedia functions, and even swapping different profiles on the fly. All in all, it's just a really nice implementation, and that's actually pretty intuitive and actually useful. Did we mention that this fully supports macOS as well? You could even say that we were actually more impressed with ROG themselves, especially when compared to the other large gaming companies out there that are so lackluster when it comes to a properly good keyboard. And this is wireless no less, with a 2000 hour battery life. But of course, you do have to pay a pretty penny for this ROG Azoth. This will retail for $249 US or 429 Singapore dollars. Relatively, it's extremely expensive for sure. It's basically bordering on the line to be able to obtain a great custom keyboard. However, customs, well, they are usually only wired and they don't really have most of the nifty features like the knob and that OLED display and many other things. On the other hand, if you compare this with ROG's competitors, the Azoth is honestly just leagues and miles ahead, and it's honestly actually worth every single dollar. Anyways, if you have any questions, leave a comment down below and be sure to take a look at it. Don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to us for more of such content. And follow us on all our social channels such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Till the next one. See ya!